think there's a wide range of... I love this question. I think there's a wide range of where we fit in with these risk factors. Some of us have none of them. Some of us have a lot of them. And risk factors don't guarantee something, right? So just because you have a lot of boxes checked, it just means that you're more likely, but not a guarantee. But if you have a lot of these risk factors, yeah, prolapse was probably inevitable. So if you're one of those people who's blaming yourself for picking up your toddler too early postpartum or getting back to exercise too early or whatever it may be, if you're blaming yourself for your prolapse, don't do that. Because it's likely that if you fit a lot of these boxes, it's probably going to happen to you at some point in your life anyways. I haven't read anything that indicates a correlation between episiotomies and prolapse. If you guys have read it and you want to send the article to me to review, that would be great. So no, probably not, but somebody might prove me wrong right now. And episiotomy is not going to cause a levator avulsion. Those are pretty different areas of the pelvic floor muscles that are affected. But if you needed an episiotomy, that might be an indicator that your pelvic floor muscles were not stretching during the delivery, or things were rushed, or I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why doctors do episiotomies. I don't know this unique story, but the two are not correlated or causative, I should say. They're not causative. So hypermobile EDS is a condition where there are changes in a person's collagen matrix in their body, making their connective tissues more mobile. This places someone at a higher risk of developing prolapse in their life. So the question is, are these individuals able to attain asymptomatic life? And the answer is yes, you can. But just like those with avulsions, you have to work really, really hard. You have to work a lot harder than the rest of us to become asymptomatic, and you have to strengthen out of your body to really, really support yourself well. So it is possible, but just know that it's going to be a journey. This is another great question that I don't have an answer to. No one, I don't think, has directly studied the relationship between genetics and prolapse and looked at risk associated. I think that would be really, really hard to do because there's so many things that, as you see from the risk factors, that contribute to someone developing prolapse. So I would say if something like hypermobile EDS runs in your family and that's genetically linked, then you'd have a higher percentage chance, if that makes sense. But I don't want to say like, yeah, you have this percent chance of developing prolapse or passing it on, because there's just so many factors to look at. That would be really hard to study. You guys have such good questions, and I wish I had definitive answers for all these, and I don't. So does an unmedicated vaginal delivery lessen the chance of prolapse? Totally depends. With an unmedicated delivery, people tend to push harder and faster to get through the pain. And that a really quick delivery can increase the risk of tearing, can increase the risk of levator avulsions. So that could increase your risk of prolapse too. There's just that really quick stretch could be a factor. But then at the same time, if you have an epidural, you might not be able to deliver with the assist of gravity, or you're going to be coached pushing, and that's not ideal because it's going to be a longer time. It is possible, yes. But we know that forceps lead to the most birth injury, more so than vacuum-assisted deliveries. So it is possible, yes. But using forceps definitely increases risk to the pelvic floor for the birthing person. I know it's hard because some of us don't have any of these risk factors. So lifting a baby or toddler repeatedly places more demand on the pelvic floor when you're pregnant, so probably contributed, right? But we're not going to point fingers and say, this was it, because that's not Maybe my patience here. That's not helpful. Maybe spit sitting super low. I haven't seen any of this correlating, but I think an interesting thing that I have seen is people saying, oh, my baby feels like they're really low, or baby's head dropped, I'm feeling a lot of pressure. And sometimes these people go back and realize that the sensation they were feeling was actually likely the prolapse developing in pregnancy. No, it's not truly preventable. It could happen to anyone at any time. But there are things that we can do to help reduce our risk. But it's not preventable. To not scare people. That's what I've heard. I've also heard that pelvic floor therapists should not tell people that they see a prolapse during an exam to not scare them. If they don't have symptoms, that is. I don't believe in any of that. Tell people. Tell them. I could definitely see this being a correlated factor in increasing someone's risk. So repeated vomiting during pregnancy should be included in that list, and I bet it's been studied at some point. But I've also heard some people who have a history of bulimia have told me that they have heard it more as a condition that someone's experiencing in some of the support groups for people with bulimia or people recovering from bulimia. Quick clarification on the episiotomies thing. So I think episiotomies, yes, they do have a contributing factor to prolapse, and I think it's because they can significantly impact the muscle function. So when you have an episiotomy, it's a cut in the muscle, which can cut directly through and across the fibers, rather than allowing the body to tear naturally, which would just kind of follow the path of least resistance of like a natural tissue line that was already present. So the healing then is a lot easier for your body, technically, with a tear. Obviously a higher grade, so it's a whole different conversation. And then it's also going to depend on how your episiotomy was done. So I don't know if you guys know this,